Salutations! This is Krishna Firefly Nerd, and let's see what's cool today. Now, originally, this video was planned to be the origin of ghouls. What are ghouls? What were they originally? What should they be? Or where's the starting point to base ghouls off of? But in my research, I actually ended up somehow getting to the Twilight books by Stephanie Meyers, and that just made me further wonder, what should a vampire be? What should a werewolf be? And side note, I kind of would have liked if Stephanie Meyers did call her vampires something else, but they are very similar, aside from not the weakness to sunlight. So close enough, I suppose. The werewolves in her series, though, I would actually classify them as shapeshifters for a couple different reasons, but both the original origin of ghoul and the Twilight classification of mythological creatures. Those are going to be topics for other videos, because I ended up wondering how taxonomy would apply to mythical creatures. If you don't know what taxonomy is, it is the organization of organisms via domain, kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, and species. And it goes from very broad categories to very specific categories. Just two notes about that. The first note, species is so specific that you cannot successfully procreate with an organism unless it is of your same species. And the second note is an organism's scientific name is their genus and species. As we are Homo sapiens, our genus is Homo and our species is sapiens. And you know, I've always wondered how to classify dragons, and I've wanted this breakdown. Here's a very broad way to classify dragons, and here are the very specific ways you can specify dragons. I've always wanted to be dragon class broad, specific, you have dragons very broad, you have European and Chinese dragons to get a little more specific, and you have I know China has traditionally a few different dragons, but for simplicity I'm going to be gold, green, red, blue dragons, and they each do different things in the Chinese. And then up here you have similar with the European, but I'm going to base them off elements. You have fire-breathing dragons, and you have earth magic-based dragons. And I know traditionally dragons breathe fire, but I think since the fire would generally be magically created, I think they could breathe other elements. Getting off topic, though, I want to get back on topic. I've always been curious about the taxonomy for mythological creatures. So in this video, I'm going to give a couple examples of real-life taxonomy, so that you can understand the system a little better. And in some future videos, I'm going to be doing two things with taxonomy. One is I'm going to be actually looking at mythological creatures like manticores, mermaids, and dragons, and breaking them down to see which class, phylum, kingdom, all of that great stuff. I'm going to see where they would break down into. The second is I'm going to actually make a parody of taxonomy to apply specifically to mythological creatures. As I said, it would have a domain of I don't know what the domains would be, but we could do domain of real creatures or mythological creatures, or we could do very general domains of magical intensity, where things like unicorns and dragons could be at very high magical intensity, and very low magical intensity. I don't know, maybe something like a rock, a giant flying bird, or a giant spider would be at low magical intensity. But you know, and then the kingdoms could be like, is this flying or a dragon, or you know, there's a lot of different ways I could do that. So I'll figure that out. I'll start figuring that out, and eventually I'll have this very unique taxonomy system for mythological creatures. And of course, there's a few different reasons why I want to do this. One, for the real-life biology and mythology education. But this main reason why I've always wanted to do this is I am a writer, and I've always wanted to know a lot about mythological creatures, the popular ones and the obscure ones. And looking into this and doing this taxonomy system is one way I'm going to be able to teach myself and help you know a lot about very interesting but not well known mythological creatures, and know more about the ones that are well known. Anyway, I'm going to just end this video with a couple examples of using the taxonomy system. The first one is going to be for the housefly. Now, as I mentioned before, taxonomy goes from very broad to very specific categories. And so for a housefly, they would be in the domain of Eukarya. Now, I'm going to be going off of the taxonomy system proposed by Carl Huss in 1999, which we are still using today, although we have updated it quite a few times. It started out with 3 domains, and we're mainly going to be focusing on the Eukarya domain because it has the organisms with eukaryotic cells, cells with wall membranes and nuclei. And that's important because they make up essentially all non-microorganisms. And mythology didn't have many mythological microorganisms as far as I'm aware. So domain Eukarya. Next comes the kingdom, which houseflies are in the kingdom Animalia, which, you know, insects are classified under the Animalia kingdom for animals. Next comes phylum, which the housefly is an arthropoda, which basically means it's an arthropod, which signifies they have exoskeletons, are invertebrates, have a pair of joined appendages, and have segmented bodies. Next is their class, Insecta, you know, similar to insect, of course. Next would be the order, Diptera, which is the same order for things like flies, gnats, maggots, and mosquitoes, as well as many more. The family is like the Diptera, but much more specific to just flies, and the family is Musidae. Next is the genus, which is Musca, even more specific to the type of flies, and the species is Domestica, so the scientific name would be Musca domestica. And again, species is so specific that you cannot successfully procreate with organisms not of your species. So, as mentioned, I hope you understand taxonomy and real-life biology a little bit better after that example. I know I kind of rushed through it, and I rushed through explaining the taxonomy system with the very broad domain, kingdom, family, class, order... domain, kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. But you know, for this video I just wanted to give you the broad strokes so that when I introduce the mythological system you can be a little more prepared to understand the taxonomy behind both putting mythological creatures into real-life taxonomy and doing the taxonomy parody. And I just wanted to leave off the video with one more example, trying to break down zombies. In a way, zombies would be a little more complicated than other organisms, because zombies would technically be humans with the zombie virus. So I went ahead and looked into what humans are, and since most people seem to use a fungi, I decided to use a bacteria for the zombie outbreak. But for humans, we are of the domain eukarya, eukaryotic cells with cell wall membranes, as well as nuclei. Conversely, there are prokaryotic cells which do not have nuclei and do not have the cell wall membranes. Anyway, we are also of the kingdom Animalia. We have the phylum Chordata, which should relate to the spinal cord. Class Mammalia, mammal. Order Primate. Family Hominidae. And we are, of course, of the genus Homo and the species Sapiens. And I decided to have the bacteria that the zombie outbreak mutates from be the bacteria that causes syphilis. Syphilis is a disease that can cause quite a few symptoms, but I focused on it because it causes fatigue, and in most materials I'm aware of, zombies generally shamble. They're quite slow creatures. As well as the syphilis bacteria can cause ulcers in the mouth, which means there should be bacteria in the mouth, and would be able to be transferred via biting. So for this example, I really just looked up the Treponema pallidum bacteria, found out what its taxonomy is, and decided to use that. But of course, if the zombie outbreak mutated from this bacteria, it would probably at least have a different species. But it is of the domain Bacteria, the kingdom Monera, and then the next few are quite similar, but the phylum Spirochaetes, class Spirochaetia, order Spirochaetales, family Spirochaetaceae, and the genus Treponema, and species Pallidum. And I wasn't sure what to change Pallidum into to signify that it's a zombie mutation. But anyway, again, I hope you were able to learn about real-life taxonomy and biology with this video, and be excited to learn about mythology with me, especially you writers who want to include a more varied list of mythological creatures. But for now, that's the video. Thank you for watching, and of course remember to like, and also please comment what you think would be a good bacteria or fungi or whatever for the zombie outbreak. I mean, zombies could be a mutation of Homo sapiens themselves with some sort of neurotoxin or a venom with neurotoxin in it that causes the mindless cannibalism. Anyway, so remember to like, comment what you think would be a good start for zombies. And of course, thank you for watching, and remember to subscribe and ring the bell so that you can stay up to date, learn about math, psychology, biology, mythology, history, and a lot of others, as well as just nerd out over things like anime, American TV, books, and other series with me. sorry, I know there's been a lot of note reading today, but those scientific terms, I was not memorizing them. Well, I guess there's only one more thing for me to do today, and that is, this has been Christian, a Firefly Nerd, signing out till next video.